Good day, everyone. So I am Judith S. Dimaano, PNU graduate student, taking up MA in Counseling. So for today, I will be discussing an article published by Sandra Acker on year 1987. It was entitled Feminist Theory and the Study of Gender and Education. But before that, let's have a brief discussion of what is feminism. So it is simply means being feminine or woman or an advocacy of women's rights. It is also considered as multifaceted and complex. So this paper focuses on the implication of feminist frameworks for the analysis of education. It is about the three main Western feminist theoretical frameworks such as first liberal, second socialist, and the third one is radical. So the main part is to make connection between each of the form, educational perspective, and research, as well as the objectives, conceptual basis, strategies for change, and criticism of each approach. Okay, for liberal feminism, it accused of elitism, wherein few women have the opportunity to have careers and join the ranks of powerful. So they aim the concept of equality. For the socialists, they are eager to make alliances with men, wherein men hold power over women through control of sexuality and threat of violence. And for radical, female superiority is sociological. It portrays women as the inevitable victim of evil men. Okay, so this frameworks has mutual criticism. So they are subject to the same pressures, including oppressive power of structures, resilience of individuals, and tension between universality or how women are the same and diversity, how women differ on attributes like class and race. Okay, let's discuss liberal feminism and education. So it aimed to secure equal opportunities for the sexes and remove barriers which prevent girls reaching their full potential. So these barriers located in the school and labor practices wherein women experience discrimination. So for the foundation, equal opportunity, socialization and sex stereotyping, and sex discrimination. Okay, for this perspective, equal opportunity is sine qua non or something that is absolutely needed. So equal means the same. They also argue that separate educational provision for girls has usually meant inferior facilities and restricted features. Also, same treatment may produce an equal outcome. So example, sexes have differential initial competence or interest in a given subject. So labor market practices, they hire equally qualified employees with differential competence on the job. So failure of school to accomplish equality of educational opportunity is widely acknowledged. In some countries, they try to transform it. They persist because class differences apart and the provision of educational resources on a sex-blind basis still seems attainable and it is acceptable to the general public. So let's proceed to socialization and sex stereotyping. Girls are taught to be socialized into traditional attitudes and orientation, which limits their future unnecessarily to sex stereotype, occupational, and family roles. So socialization encourages patterns of interpersonal relationships between the sexes. But they also experience challenges of socialization. So for female, they placed in a position of dependency and difference, while for male, they are forced to suppress their emotional and carrying potential. And sometimes this concept was adopted by both sexes. Okay, for sex discrimination, sex role socialization framework has been criticized. So there is a companion set of concepts that is sometimes ignored. The notions of the notions of discrimination, rights, justice, and fairness. So those who use these terms came much more closer to admitting an impact of structures. The attitudes on creating a structure of disadvantage for girls. Example, for women working on rurals. So in school, there is a small number of female teacher. So they have the strategies for educational change emanating from liberal feminism follow from the conceptual basis. So in general, there is an attempt to alter socialization practices, change attitudes, and use legal processes. And the gathering and dissemination of information and evidence is also important. So they promote a good practice in school. So they aim of Equal Opportunities Commission, wherein authorities acting illegally or against the Sex Discrimination Act. So for changing attitudes, it is for teachers and children. So example, reviewing aspects of school organization, analyzing curriculum materials for stereotyping so that girls will not drop science and technology subjects, providing teachers in training with ideas for combating sexism, and lastly, increase interest in assertiveness training for female teachers for their promotion. So for criticism, they see that this perspective has limitation on the conceptual framework, especially ideas about equality of opportunity and the reliance on socialization and sex role models. Also, the emphasis on individual attitudes in these approaches is seen as a kind of psychological reductionism. So, blaming the victims for her lack of perception or confidence and why socialization proceeds as it does is unexplained. Okay, to summarize, liberal feminists, their concepts, equal opportunity, sex roles, socialization, and discrimination, strategies, alter socialization practices, change attitudes, make use of relevant legislation, and critics conceptual limitations and the liberal reluctance to confront power and patriarchy. Okay, now let's proceed for the socialist feminism and education. So they aim to remove oppression in part by abolishing capitalism, but the immediate task is to elucidate the processes involved. So most socialist feminist theoreticians have focused on women's position within the economy and the family. So development of this perspective within education has been strongly influenced by neo-Marxist trend, wherein they believe that all societal ill came from the divide between the rich and the poor, and oppression happened. Okay, for the key question, how is education related to the reproduction of gender divisions within capitalism and concept, sociocultural reproduction, lesser extent acceptance of, and resistance to gender-based patterns of behavior? Okay, again, it is strongly influenced by neo-Marxist. Houseschooling, by a variety of mechanisms, perpetuates class divisions within the workforce, and political economy perspective, calling attention to the school's role in reproducing a sexual as well as a social division of labor in family as well as the workplace. Okay, so in Canada, they look critically at the notion of skill, which it is consequence of formal education and as a determinant of occupational placement and its rewards. So skill is a socially constructed category. So differentiation process within the school is important, not only because it trains girls in office skills such as data processing, but because it fails to train them in allied areas such as computer science or management that might allow alternative careers. So in this analysis, the partnership between education and economy clearly operates to confirm large numbers of girls and women in restricted, so low-paid sectors of employment. So for school and motherhood, they also explore the links between these two. So in British primary schools, they operate with the expectations of mothers' participation in school activities. In middle classes, mothers are expected to educate the children. Schools also benefit or rely on unpaid help from mothers, ranging from repairing books to assisting with classroom routines. So schools make use of a sexual division of labor at home. Okay, for the strategies, it is in strategies for educational actions that socialist feminist writing appears most underdeveloped. So, Weiner remarks in passing that Marxist analyses have been theoretical and academic rather than classroom oriented. So the potential development with teacher and pupils is strategies of resistance or move towards a curriculum which challenge the dominant hegemony. So they also call attention to the role of schooling in mediating and reproducing gender, class, and other division. So for the critics, and socialist feminist writings on education show increasing awareness that gender, race, and class interact in complex ways to shape girls' lives in and out of school, and social determinism implied in reproduction accounts. So the description of girls' conformity and resistance in schools or the arguments about single-sex schools may need reworking and capitalism become refined. Society is seen as a field of play or pre-given and essential interests or needs. So, yeah, to summarize socialist feminist, this is the concept: sociocultural reproduction, lesser extent acceptance of and resistance to gender-based patterns of education. Strategies, educational writing is mainly theoretical rather than practical. And for the critics, over-determinism and insufficient empiric foundation. So let's proceed to the third one, which is radical feminism and education. So it aims to a fundamental change in the societal structure, one which will eliminate male dominance and patriarchal structures. So the goal of the feminist education is not equality in knowledge, power, and wealth, but the abolition of gender as an oppressive cultural reality. So the concept are male monopolization of culture and knowledge and sexual politics of everyday life in schools. Okay, so unlike socialist and liberal feminist writings, radical have made few attempts to relate school life to economy or to the family. So they agree about domination of men over women, denying girls full access to knowledge, resources, self-esteem, and freedom from fear and harassment. Okay, for male dominance, Spender wishes to uncover the logic of male dominance and the contribution schools make towards it. So decision making in educational and other contexts, role of language. There are obvious implications here for the school curriculum and also for women teachers' access to power and policy making within education. Okay, for centuries, women's contributions and understanding had been ignored. Yeah, for the concept of sexual politics of everyday life in school. Ayan, so, okay, so two concepts of problem is number one, teacher attention unequally divided between the sexes to the advantage of boys. So second, potential, although not unmixed benefits of single-sex schooling for girls. So both issues have been approached from other perspective as well, but most closely associated with radical feminists. Yeah, and so basic reason for this concern is dominance of males over females in um single set mixed single settings. Okay. So moreover, there are examples of the dictum that personal is political. So it is a political argument, use a rallying slogan of student movement and second wave feminism. So it underscored the connection between personal experience and larger social and political structures. So they become more insistent about the extent to which may teachers oppress and harass women teachers. So in British writings, they see school, especially mixed secondary schools, as amplifiers of male tendencies towards violence. So also, girls received less time for teaching, and existence outside classroom is filled with abuse and molestation. So male violence such as visual, verbal, and physical sexual harassment was part of their school life. So they strategize to expose these practices through publications. Yeah. Their objective is to put girls or women at the center of concern and successfully legitimated discussions on of sexually and sexual harassment in schools. And anti-sexist strategies for teachers are recommended. Okay. So revision on curricula, text, and extension of scholarship on gender have a similar rationale. And there are attempts to pedagogical change, especially in higher and adult education, to develop the teaching methods as non-hierarchical, less competitive, and participatory. Separation, so have single-sex schools like colleges and etc. So the central unresolved problem is how to educate the boys and who should do it. So for the criticism, less articulated of the three perspective, this descriptive rather than explanatory, not simply ideological but material, universality of patriarchy or male dominance, analyzes with their generalization, similarity yet diversity of women, and biologically reductionism or essentialism. And lastly, the methodological grounds. Okay, so let's summarize the radical feminist for its concept, male manipulation of knowledge and culture, and on sexual politics in schools, putting women's and girls' concerns first through separate sex groups when necessary for their strategies, and for the critics, biological reductionism, description rather than explanation, and also contains methodological weaknesses. Okay, so this is the summary of these three frameworks. Okay, Yan. So the history of struggles for women's education shows the tension between strategies emphasizing sameness and differences, structures and agency. The tension can be productive as well as destructive. It is through these very dilemmas, through attempts to solve the unsolvable, through exchanges among feminist frameworks that feminist theory moves ahead. So the main tension between education as reproductive and education is liberating is encountered daily. So one of this dilemma is the relationship between the structure and agency. Should women be seen as immobilized by reproductive, social, and economic structure, by tradition, or by discrimination, or by men? Or are they active agents struggling to control and change their lives? Even more problematic is the issue of universality and diversity, one of the paradoxes of feminism. So that's end of my discussion. So thank you for watching this video and listening. I hope you learned something about the three Western feminist perspective and how it applies to our education.